Let's go live now to Mackay in Queensland. Murray Watt, Labor frontbencher, joins me. Senator Watt, thanks for your time. Was it a slip-up yesterday that Labor's now had to recalibrate and jump in behind that specific number that the opposition leader agreed to in terms of an increase in the minimum wage?
No, I don't think it was, Kieran. I mean, we've been clear throughout this campaign and well before the campaign that we think Australians deserve a wage rise. So I don't think it's really any surprise to hear Anthony Albanese and other Labor members, including myself, saying that people on the minimum wage at least deserve to be able to keep up with inflation. I think the really interesting thing that's come out of the last 24 hours actually is it's Scott Morrison who's now saying that even people on the minimum wage, the lowest paid people in our community, don't deserve to keep up with inflation, but they deserve to go backwards. So all this means is that that whole deliberate design feature of the government to cut wages seems to be locked in for another 3 years under Scott Morrison. And I think that's a really sad thing to do to Australians at a time when they're struggling with the cost of living.
I know it's been a key part of the Labor campaign, the broader message about everything going up except your wages, but the specific number that he agreed to, almost in a throwaway remark at a news conference, it seems unusual to drop such a significant point as a throwaway in a press conference.
Well, I wouldn't say it is a throwaway line, Kieran. I mean, as I say, Labor has been on the record for a very long time now saying that if we're elected, we will do everything we possibly can to get wages rising again in this country. We're not like the LNP. We don't want to see wages go backwards. We don't want to see people's work get more insecure. So I think it's just a logical extension of the inflation rate as it currently stands that we want to make sure that at least the minimum wage stays in line with the inflation increases. If we don't see that, if Scott Morrison has his way, that just means that the lowest paid in our community are going to keep slipping further behind. And I think that's a terrible way to treat our fellow Australians.
The opposition leader points out it affects 180,000 workers on the minimum wage, that they'll see an increase of $1. They're currently on $20.33 an hour. It'll be about $1 increase, what he's talking about here. But do you concede that there are flow-on effects, that there are several awards that are linked to the minimum wage, workers to the tune of 2.6 million workers across the economy?
Yeah, well, obviously, as I say, we want to make sure that every worker in Australia gets a wage rise because it just hasn't been happening under this government. I've been in Mackay today speaking with people working in the mining workforce and manufacturing workforce, as I do pretty much every day around regional Queensland. And there's people who just see their wages going backwards under this government. They see their jobs being made more insecure with labour hire and casualisation. And that's why people are struggling so badly to keep up with the cost of living. This government doesn't seem to have any solutions for it. Well, Labor does. We're obviously going to be working to bring down the cost of living with cheaper childcare, cheaper power bills, cheaper medicine, but also doing something to have wages increase. I mean, it's a pretty remarkable time in Australia that we've got a Prime Minister in Scott Morrison who says his government doesn't support people on the minimum wage actually getting a pay rise and staying up with inflation. He's just sending these people backwards, and we're not going to stand for it.
Businesses have copped it as well, as you know, during the pandemic. It hasn't been an easy time for thousands and thousands of small businesses. What do you say to them, to this prospect of an increase across the board of the magnitude that opposition leaders talking about, that many of them struggle to find some extra cash? Could it cost jobs, this proposal?
I don't think it will, Kieran, and there's been a number of economists come out today saying that we can see an increase to the minimum wage without costing jobs, because the other part of what Labor's putting forward is some really serious reforms about lifting productivity. It's not just wages that have gone backwards on the Morrison government's watch, it's productivity as well. So business owners are going backwards because they're not seeing that increase in productivity that generates profits that allows them to pay their workers a better wage. Again, Alba has really been clear throughout his leadership that he's the kind of person who wants to bring business, unions, workers together for a common goal, which is to see everyone get ahead. We want to see businesses get ahead. We want to see them become more profitable by lifting their productivity and supporting them to do that. And equally, we want to make sure that workers get a slice of that action as well in the form of increased wages.
The third and final leaders' debate tonight, we saw a fiery affair on Sunday night. What would you say to Mr Albanese tonight if it gets as feisty as it did just a couple of days ago? Would you say just pull back a bit. It doesn't reflect well on anyone to be diving in like that.
Well, it's far be it from me as a humble junior frontbencher to give advice to the leader about how to conduct himself. Look, Albo's a passionate guy. He's passionate about making sure that all Australians get a better deal. We've seen that in this discussion over the minimum wage over the last couple of days. He's passionate about wanting to make sure we bring down childcare costs, bring down power costs, invest in more renewable energy, and he'll be passionate in putting that forward. And I think it's good that he stands up to Scott Morrison. You know, Scott Morrison is someone who his own party regards as a bully, and Albo's not going to take a backward step. So I'm sure he'll conduct himself well and demonstrate why he's the best choice to become Prime Minister of the country.
Senator Murray Watt joining me live from Mackay. Thanks.